Emmanuel Adebola, the Executive Director of ANE Global, is deeply committed to the non-profit organization's mission to facilitate professionalism and economic viability for African, Caribbean, and Black-owned businesses. His wealth of knowledge as an IT project delivery management professional and his years of work experience as an international consultant with Accenture have been instrumental to the success of ANE Global in collaboration with other Black community members with similar ideas. Together, they strengthen entrepreneurship development and inform the community about funding opportunities, particularly in Ontario. On the leadership table, Emmanuel, happily married with 3 children, shares his journey of relocating to Canada several years ago, the challenges of settling in a new environment, and what led to his current passion for changing the business landscape in the Black community. Hello, Emmanuel Adebola. It is a pleasure to have you join us on the leadership table. How are you doing?
I'm very well, Joy. Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
How are your people doing over there?
We're very well, thank you. And again, thank you for that warm reception you gave us in February. We came for the Black History Month, and it was great to connect with you personally. We're doing great. Still looking forward to our first year anniversary at ANE Global right now.
Okay, yeah. We'll be talking about ANE Global shortly. I just wanted to know that the leadership table is a place where we talk about issues concerning the African, Caribbean, and Black people and leaders in our communities across Canada.
I used to work with a company called Accenture, where I had spent 12 years. So I was actually brought in on a work permit to come and lead an engagement here. In Accenture, I was on the leadership team. In fact, I was part of what we call the Leadership Development Program, where we're training people who had potential to do even greater things. And I was also on the board of the American Business Council back in Nigeria. But coming here, the original mission was not fulfilled, so I had to look for another job to sustain myself and family. And that's when I learned that before you lead other people, you need to lead yourself. Lead yourself through crisis, lead yourself through good times. And I've also learned that leadership is not without challenges. And it's not about the title. John C. Maxwell says that the lowest level of leadership is positional leadership. And many people tend to assume they're leaders because they have a title that goes by the name. That's very far from it. I used to have good titles before I came to Canada, just like many immigrants do. But this country is a leveler of sorts. And in my case, I also experienced my fair share of challenges where I worked in very odd places, shop floor and stuff. And many times I asked myself, what's happening to me? Someone who had a beautiful career, things were working, and all of a sudden, the environment wanted to turn me into a misfit. And I was like that for a long time. But coming out of that experience, I became a better version of myself. Why? Because I learned how to define failure. Many times before then, my mantra was, failure is not an option. So I avoided failure by all means. But this was the first time where I had no plan B. I was stuck with it. When I came out of it, I realized that failure is an event. Don't make it your person. So when you have that understanding, you learn from failure and you become a better version of yourself.
When you came to Canada and you decided to stay back, what made you change your mind to stay back?
I was in Accenture for 12 years and I was a senior manager for 6 years. The year I came, I was being considered for the highest level, which we call managing executive or senior executive. And I remember that the country managing director asked me, you want to leave all this to go to Canada? And I said yes because I was looking at not just myself, but my family, the bigger picture, giving myself, my children, my family a better pedestal to rise in life. And that was really the burning platform for me. But I would admit to you that when life hit me hard, I really wanted to go back home. And then my wife told me, "Where are you going back to? We've sold everything. We've moved on. Who are you going to? You better let's stay here and let's carry on from here." So I'll say I stayed against my will, but also out of reality that there wasn't anything to go back to. I mean, we still have a house that we've maintained in Nigeria, but outside of that, there was really nothing. So I just decided to weather the storm.
Okay, so take this scenario. Let's imagine that there's someone in Nigeria who's planning to relocate to Canada, and they just decided that, you know what, before I make that move, how about I talk to someone who relocated recently to see if this is really a good move. What would you say to that person?
I want to be perfectly honest, what I did not say, but now I have to say is that one other thing that drove me was a conviction that I was not just an economic migrant. I did say in passing that I'm a person of faith, and I had a biblical conviction that I needed to be here. Isaiah 46 verse 11 is where it is. And so my first admonition to whoever is considering it is that Canada or wherever it is a good land, but is it for you? So there must be that personal conviction, just like any worthwhile thing in life. In marriage, you go into marriage, are you convinced that this person is the one that that is meant for you or not? Because there will be a trial of that. And in my case, this same passage I quoted was tried, and I was beaten and battered, and I hated life. I literally thought I was gone. The only vision I had, only goal, because I used to attend a church back in Nigeria where they say, at the beginning of every year, have a goal, have your goals written. The only goal I had for 2022, which is just 2 years ago, was let me make it alive till the end of the day, because I couldn't see the end. This was after 5 years of being here. Just so whoever is coming here, know that it is a noble dream, but it hits each person in different ways. But so if you are ready for that, then come. Don't just look at people driving cars or taking pictures and assume that that's all there is. There's a real life. And trust me, everything you have will be tested. Your relationship with your spouse is even one of the greatest challenges. Many people don't say this, but many marriages have suffered shipwreck since they came to Canada, husband and wife. Why? Because back in Nigeria, the environment is skewed towards the man. Everything is your gasa or whatever. You have family, you have relative people around you. Over here, it's not necessarily like that. The women are more celebrated. So as the man, first of all, you hit a wake-up call. You suddenly find out that your salary or whatever cannot take care of you. You have to partner with your wife, with your spouse, to make things happen, to get the mortgage together. And in doing that, if she didn't have a say before, she now has a say. So you can't expect that what worked back in Nigeria, Africa, would work here, because you need to become more humble, become more collaborative. If you want to insist on doing it the way, you just suddenly think she has changed. She has not changed. The environment has changed, and you need to wake up.
I noticed that you've been extremely active in the Nigerian community, especially in Ontario. And you're on all social media platforms, right? Ensuring that you get a critical mass of Nigerian entrepreneurs together. And I said to myself, oh, he's so active. There's no dull moment with him. What exactly is your motivating factor?
I've always been driven. I worked, so my first career was in IT, information technology, which I did for 7 years. And by God's grace, I rose very quickly. I was already top within 7 years. My boss told me some years ago in 2001, he's late now. He told us something then. He said there are two types of missiles. There's a missile that you have to teleguide till it gets to its position. You move it to coordinates, you move it on together. But he said there's another missile that they call fire and forget. All you need to do is to plot the coordinates. If the target goes up, it will go up. If it goes down, and that's who I've tried to be. Once I set a goal and I set a focus, I follow through, and I think that has been helpful. You did say earlier that you noticed that there were lots of women around in what we do. That was one of the first shockers I got. That there are more women in social enterprise and community development than there are men. Up till now, I don't understand it, but it is a reality. And these are women who are giving their best. They are entrepreneurial. They are leaders of their own rights. And I'm asking, where are the men? So that's an area of development, I believe, for men. Having gone through my own fair share of struggles and realizing what it took me to get my feet back on the ground, I realized that it will be unfair to the experience I had for me to just take a 9-to-5 job. And that's why I founded the ANA Global. Well, how it started was that I was approached by a company called BNI, which is the largest referral group in the world. They had a chapter in Milton where I live, and I was invited. And in that group, what happens is that it's just one person per profession. You can't, so that there's no conflict of interest. So I thought, first of all, I was excited I was the only Black person there, but then it occurred to me, I can use this same efforts to build within my own community. And so that's what led to, so we're called the Alliance of Nigerian Entrepreneurs. And I started recruiting people one by one. Before we knew, we were about 6 of us when we registered. But to our surprise, we registered formally on the 16th of June 2023 with 6 people or so. By December of that year, we were already 162 members. That's when it occurred to me that we're growing faster than anybody. To be honest with you, it was not planned. But everything we touched was working. We had an Owambe party. We had the remembrance. So along the line, a company called Face Coalition approached us. They've been given $160 million by the Canadian government to disburse to businesses. And so we got them, we had a workshop, and to my surprise, 168 people registered, 98 people attended the event. Of the 98 people, less than half were Nigerians. That's when I said to myself, we're aiming too low by just focusing on Nigerians. And that was the only reason why we then migrated in 2024, January, we converted, so it's now ANE Global. ANE is still Alliance of Nigerian Entrepreneurs, but we've de-emphasized the Nigerianness to welcome the Black community. So we now operate as 3 things. We have a Chamber of Commerce where we do different events. So a lot of the events you're seeing are on the Chamber of Commerce. We're developing an entrepreneurship development academy based on my wealth of experience as a consultant. I have a pool of people internationally across the world who are seasoned business people, and those are the people I'll be leveraging to provide consulting, to provide training. So it's all working well. We're just beating our time. And then the third thing we do is that we're also very focused on youth empowerment. We're happy where we are. To be honest with you, we're moving faster than anybody anticipated. And when things happen like that, it's good.
I see that, and I'm also happy that your mission is working. And I see that you're advancing towards your vision. I like the fact that you've also decided to go beyond the Nigerian community to incorporate people of African, Caribbean, Black descent in Canada. Now, so let's talk about that. How are they taking it? People from other communities, Africans from other communities, how are they, trying to integrate into what you're doing to ensure that it's exactly as inclusive as you want it to be?
When we changed our name to ANA Global, we retained our logo. Our logo had the Nigerian flag on it, the Nigerian map on it, the green, white, green. And then I had an interview, and one of the things leaders should do is get feedback. We have a monthly event called City Connect, where we go to different communities. So in January, we're in Hamilton. In February, we're in Oakville. In March, we're in Toronto. But the one in Hamilton, I discussed it with them, and they told me it's not enough to change the logo, to change the name. That Nigerian logo may discourage some other people because they made it clear that Nigerians are sometimes perceived as being loud or being, domineering, and so we need to step it down. And that's exactly what we did. And I want to say that we have people from Jamaica, from Comoros Islands, from Zimbabwe. So the reception has been great. That's one. Number 2, I live in the town of Milton, and the town of Milton, which is in Halton, Ontario, we recently had a new member of provincial parliament called Zihamit. And when we fortunately we canvassed for him and he won, we hosted the first meet and greet to welcome him. And in the first meet and greet we did, we welcomed people from other communities. People I had known, like my son is coached by somebody who's from Togo. His wife is from, she says she's from Rwanda. So we had different people there. And in just that meeting, we had almost 8 nationalities represented. And so following on from that, what I've also done is recently, very recently, as maybe a week or 2 ago, I set up a group called the Black Community of Milton.
it's quite interesting that you've been able to, spread your tentacles and network quickly in a short period of time after the launch of that organization. One of the things I also want to ask is, how well are you doing in terms of networking with the government in this region?
I have a very good relationship with the mayor of Milton, Mayor Gordon Kranz. Recently, he had a mayor's breakfast, which is an annual event. And that day, I didn't have a ride. So I asked him, I need a ride home. And he took me home. I did a short video on that. Maybe you've seen the clip. So I have a fantastic relationship with him. I also have a fantastic relationship with the MP, Adam Van Coverdin. That's because one of the things I do is I coach basketball, youth empowerment. So when we launched in November 2022, Adam Van Coverdin is an ex-Olympian. I asked him to join us, and he was very generous. He came for that event. And since then, we've struck an accord. And then most recently, the MPP of Milton, Mr. Z. Ahmed, has been very appreciative of the way we supported him prior to the election and even after he came on board. So in April, we had an event in Oakville. And one of the participants on the plenary was the mayor of Oakville. I have a good relationship with him. In the city of Brampton, where we had an event over the last weekend, I've also gotten to know the mayor and some of the councillors, and we're developing a relationship there. In February, we gave an award to Philomena Tassi, Honorable Philomena Tassi, who is the Honorable Federal Minister for Socio-Economic Development in Southern Ontario. So I make it a deliberate, it's not by accident. You need to be in the right places, have the right relationships. I've been part of the Milton Chamber of Commerce since 2022. And that's what led me to start up this group. I was talking about the Black community of Milton, because I found out that when I joined the Chamber of Commerce, we would have events after hours, and I could count the number of Black people there. I wasn't happy. 3, 4, 5, where other people would be there. In April, when we had the mayor's breakfast that I talked about, the room was 300 people. Guess how many Blacks were there? I'm not talking about Nigeria. How many Blacks were there? Just guess.
10.
2. 2, ma. And that's when I said no more.
And the thing is, when you do not have representation at the leadership table, no one will talk about your issue.
Yes. And so I was so angry that same evening. I did a broadcast on Instagram Live. It was not planned. I just said no. Because the kind of things I was hearing were so fantastic about the town. And my guys are doing Owambe, doing award ceremonies. So my challenge is that many of my people come into Canada, but stay within, they stay within their own community and don't break out. That's not who I am. By nature, I'm a bridge builder. So I have a fantastic relationship with the Caucasians. And I've broken into some groups where they're, and that's why my events, you don't just see Nigerians, you see people from, Black people, you see people from different, because I know the value of these things. Representation matters, and also integration. They want to know about us just as we want to know about them. I'm grateful for the Black History Month celebration. Wonderful. But I'm also of the belief, having had the experience I've had in last 2 years or so, that what we call racism is only maybe half or less than half of the issue. The victimization of Black to Black is a lot more, and we need to call it what it is. We don't support each other the way we should. I'm not saying what I heard, I'm saying what I experienced. When we hosted that event in Brampton, somebody from that office in my pigmentation told me, you are not going to have this program. So you ask yourself, why do we stoop so low? When we have the opportunity, we should help each other, we waste those opportunities. So I'm not an advocate of just talking racism. No, let us help each other, and then we'll rise. So I have a national association for Nigeria. It's called Association of Nigerian Community in Milton. We have one for Cameroonians. I don't know if you're familiar with the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So those organizations do well with levels 1, 2, 3, which are physiological needs, safety, love, and belonging. Somebody came in, they don't have a job, humanitarian issue, let's help him get a job, let's him feed, welfare, those things are good. But by the time you've stayed in Canada for a while, that's not your problem. You already have a citizenship, you have a house. Your problem is not what to eat, what to drink. It's now moving to the fourth, which is esteem and self-actualization. And that's where economic empowerment, even volunteering to be a counselor or you're an MPP. That's where I'm focused on.
Now let's go back to these connections you're making. How do you intend to leverage these positions to help the community?
We have a weekly Instagram live session, and I hosted all 4 Nigerian councillors in Canada. We're going to have what we call the Black Empowerment Summit. We're featuring these 4 councillors. We're bringing them in to Toronto all together in Mississauga. We're going to have all 4 of them. We'll have a panel session, we'll have a breakout session, and we'll have a one-on-one. And what are we doing? We're trying to invest in people that you can rise up to government. Because when I interviewed them 2 or 3 weeks ago, you could see that they are ordinary, they are just everyday people who made up their minds that they were going to serve. So they're not, I'm not trying to put them down, but they're people we can relate with. And I'm very grateful to them because they broke it down and made it look like, look, it's just that we're committed to service. And what made their story so fantastic that some of them won where they were minorities. Somebody won, for instance, where they had about 97% white people. We're going to have a gala called the Gathering of Eagles Gala. All these mayors I've mentioned, they will all be there.
If we are to take a critical look at your members, would you say that you see the same kind of passion in some of them or most of them?
People join different WhatsApp communities and they just plan what's happening here. And so what I decided to do was I want to force people to make a decision. Are you with us? Or are you not with us? Because we don't need a crowd. And I'm being honest with that. I know the value we're bringing in. There's one group where, because we started as Alliance of Nigerian Entrepreneurs, is only Nigerians. But there's another one, which is now where we have a lot more of people from other nationalities, from Botswana, from different countries. So, but what we decided to do, these 2 have now been renamed as business lounges, right? And we've created a new group we've called the business class. So maybe you've seen some of our adverts saying, are you ready for the business class? So what we're doing is, come June 7th, June 16th is our celebration, we'll all celebrate, but come Monday, June 17th, only members who have registered and paid will move into the business class. So the idea is that people who are joining us newly will start at the lounge. And if you have also not made up your mind about whether you want to go with us or not, stay in the lounge. But our 80% effort will only be concentrated on people who are in the business class.
What are some of the major challenges in the community?
Okay. Some of the challenges.
But now we're not talking about Nigeria. We're talking about.
I understand, yeah. Some of the challenges are back to the point. We need to trust ourselves more. We need to be more inclusive. We need to open up. And we also need to not to fail that trust, because when you open up your hand, somebody betrays that trust. Justifiably, the person wants to say, no. I've tried enough. There's so much to be done than to be wasting time fighting issues that will not move us anywhere. We need to think bigger. And that's, you see, and the funny thing is that the Caucasians and brown people, they don't know who is Nigerian or Brazil or Ghanaian by just looking at our face. So it's us who know that we are different. But we need to band together. That's why the Black Committee of Milton was deliberate. Forget whether you're Nigerian or Cameroon. Let's all come together, because if we are going to win, you need the numbers to work for you, not all this division that is not leading us anywhere.
It's been wonderful talking to you, Emmanuel.
Thank you very much.
I'm happy about your passion, your dream. You know, it's one thing to have a mission and a vision, and it's another thing to find people who share that vision or mission with you and are ready to run with it. And I'm happy that you've been able to gather a critical mass of African, Caribbean, and Black people who are willing to share this vision and your vision and run with it. So we'll keep a tap on you and see how things are going. I know the Nigeria High Commission in Ottawa is also proud of what you and some other Nigerians across Canada are doing. I mean, like we know about Nigerian Canadian associations across Canada who are also doing awesome things, and individuals in particular who are also excelling in the fields of endeavor. So we thank you very much for finding time to join us, and of course, keep us informed about other development in your community.
Okay.